The night I walked into that restaurant and told my wife not to come home, it felt like everything broke at once. The truth is, my marriage had cracked months earlier, in a break room I'd never even seen. My name is Mark Bennett, and I wasn't there the afternoon my marriage first cracked. I've had to rebuild that day from screenshots, half-deleted messages, and a level of honesty that only shows up when it's already too late. Picture this: a bland office floor somewhere downtown. Beige carpet, humming HVAC, the glow of double monitors turning everyone's skin a little blue. My wife, Lily, is in the break room, staring at a plastic container of leftovers and a spreadsheet open on her laptop. She thinks she's just tired. She's not. She's vulnerable. That's when Jessica Cole rolls her chair over. You probably know Jessica. Perfect eyeliner, loud laugh, always talking like her life is a movie and everyone else's background. She's grinning like she just came back from some glamorous, life-changing weekend. "Lily, sweetie," she says, kicking off with her foot and coasting closer. "Have you ever heard of an open marriage?" Lily laughs it off at first. Like, people just sleep with whoever? She says it like it's a joke, like something from a show she'd never actually live. Jessica shakes her head, all confidence. No, not cheating. Freedom. Without lying. It's actually healthier if you're emotionally mature. Emotionally mature. That's how poison gets flavored these days. Jessica leans in, lowering her voice like she's sharing a secret from some higher level of enlightenment. She talks about connection, exploration, not letting old rules define modern love. She calls traditional marriage outdated, kind of a jail cell if you think about it. She says attraction to other people is normal, that it's almost childish to pretend otherwise, that grown-ups own their desires instead of hiding them. Lily doesn't argue. She doesn't push back and say, "I have a husband who loves me, I made vows, I'm good." She just listens. That's the part that sticks with me when I play it in my head. She lets the words sit. This idea that you can keep the ring, keep the house, keep the image, and still go chase whatever you feel like. As long as you call it open instead of cheating. One drop of water on stone. That's all it is that afternoon. Jessica spinning her story about her open marriage, about how liberated she feels, how it saved their relationship. Lily nodded slowly, confused but curious. I'm not in the room. I don't exist in that moment except as a prop in their conversation. My husband, he's a good guy. We've been together forever. A line or two, nothing more. But that's when it starts. Not with a kiss. Not with a fight. With my wife sitting under office lights, letting another woman tell her that the life we built together might actually be a cage. That conversation in the break room should have been nothing. Just office noise. But once Jessica planted that seed, the whole world lined up to water it. I didn't know it at the time. Back then, from my side of the story, nothing had changed. I was still the same man, living the same marriage. I came home from work tired, but I'd still ask Lily about her day before I talked about mine. I'd pick her movie on Friday nights. I'd send her those stupid little heart emojis in the middle of the afternoon because I knew they made her smile. Only now they didn't. After Jessica's pitch about open marriage, Lily started seeing our life through a new filter. Same moments, different meanings. Me cooking dinner wasn't my husband's taking care of me anymore. It was, is this all there is? I didn't hear that question. Not out loud. But it was there. She'd scroll Instagram more. I noticed that. Reels and posts about wild feminine energy. Choosing yourself. Women in flowing dresses on cliffs talking about freedom and not being owned. Caption after caption about breaking chains. Walking away from anything that no longer serves you. Then the shows changed. Our usual comedies got replaced with streaming series where every modern couple either cheated, opened the relationship, or divorced to find themselves. The faithful ones were always painted as boring or repressed. Lily would watch some scene where a wife finally chooses her freedom, and I'd feel her glance at me, just for a second. I thought she was just comparing hair or clothes. I was wrong. That quiet whisper in her head, "Is this enough?" started getting backup. From Jessica, from social media, from movies and shows written by people who probably couldn't keep a promise for a week. Meanwhile, I was just there, making coffee, folding laundry, planning weekends, thinking I was building something solid. I wasn't. Something I couldn't see yet was grinding at the foundation. Not because I changed, because someone convinced my wife that loyal and ordinary meant trapped and unfinished. If you've never had your marriage tested, you probably think it starts with a fight. Raised voices, slammed doors, something obvious. It doesn't. It starts with innocent questions over dinner. I remember one night clearly. I'd just gotten home, tossed my keys in the bowl by the door, changed out of my work clothes. The house smelled like garlic and onion. Lily had made pasta. Felt normal. Safe. We sat down, plates between us, some playlist humming in the background. Halfway through the meal, she wiped her mouth with a napkin and said, too casually, "Have you noticed how many couples are doing non-traditional relationships now?" I twirled my fork, shrugged. "What do you mean?" "You know," she said, stabbing at her food, not quite looking at me. "Open relationships, polyamory, stuff like that. I read this article today, seems like way more people are doing it. Happily, too." I answered like the man I've always been. "Sounds like an excuse to cheat with permission," I said, took a bite, and went back to my plate. She went quiet but not offended. More calculating, like she'd written something down in her head. It didn't stop there. Another night, we were on the couch, watching a show where the main character looks into the camera and says, "Monogamy is a choice, not a rule." Lily hit pause. "Do you think that's true?" she asked. "I think people will invent any excuse not to be loyal," I said. "Doesn't make it smart." She nodded slowly, hit play, but I could feel the wheels turning. In bed later, lights off, she asked, "Have you ever been attracted to another woman since we got married?" "Sure," I said. "I'm human. Attraction isn't special. What you do with it is what matters." She didn't say anything to that. Just lay there, staring into the dark, while I fell asleep thinking everything was fine. Looking back, the pattern's obvious. She wasn't making conversation. She was testing the fence, pushing on boards, looking for a loose plank, a door I might open. I kept giving the same answer. She kept hoping one night I wouldn't. The night it stopped being theory was a Tuesday. Ordinary day, ordinary dinner, ordinary mess in the sink. That's the thing about big moments, they never send a warning. I was on the couch, game on, shoes off, that half-dead feeling you get after work where the noise of the crowd on TV is just background. Lily was next to me, legs tucked under a blanket, not really watching. I could feel her energy, tight, restless, like a runner in the blocks. She cleared her throat. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure," I said, eyes still on the screen. "What do you think really makes a marriage happy?" That got my attention. I muted the game and looked at her. Showing up, telling the truth, choosing each other every day. Boring stuff that actually matters. She nodded like she was checking off a box. Then she went in. "What if," she started, staring at her hands, "some couples could be happier if they experience something new together, like a different way of being married." "Different how?" I asked, but my stomach already knew. "You know," she said, words coming faster now, "like making room for new experiences, with other people, but together. No lies, no sneaking around. Just honest, open." There it was. Subtext turned into text. "You're talking about an open marriage," I said, my voice going cold. She flinched. "Not like that exactly. Jessica just said." "Jessica?" I repeated, tasting the name like something bitter. "You're telling me you want to be with other men, while you're still my wife." She shook her head too quickly. "It's not about other men, Mark. It's about freedom, growth, being modern. We love each other. That wouldn't change, it would just be allowed cheating." I cut in. "That's what you're describing." She went quiet, eyes wet, trying to hide behind big words. Happiness, freedom, emotional maturity, trying to blame ideas, not herself. I stood up. "Where did you think this conversation was going?" I asked. Did you think I'd say yes? She whispered. I just wanted to talk about it. Yeah, I said. Now I know you've thought about it. A lot. I told her I was going to bed. No yelling, no slammed doors. Just distance. She stayed on the couch, small under that blanket, finally saying the words out loud. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, knowing in my gut this wasn't theory anymore. There's a moment in every man's life where he has to decide what kind of husband he really is. For years, I haven't checked my wife's phone. Not because I was noble, I just trusted her. The idea of snooping felt pathetic to me. Weak, like I'd be admitting I didn't believe in the woman I married. Then my wife asked for an open marriage. Once someone suggests rewriting the rules, you only get two options. You get clarity, or you get played. The days after that living room conversation moved in this strange slow motion. On the surface, life kept going. Work, dishes, bills, laundry. But underneath, something between us had shifted, and we both felt it. Lily became careful, started small. Her phone, which used to be just another object in the house, suddenly turned into a guarded border. She started putting it face down on the table, turning the screen away from me on the couch, slipping it into her pocket when she walked past. I told myself I was imagining it. Paranoia. Ego. I wanted that to be true. Then came the late-night messages. We'd be watching something or lying in bed, and her phone would light up. She'd move fast, quicker than she needed to grab it. I'd ask, casually, "Who's that?" Most of the time she'd say, "It's just Jessica," with this little shrug, like Jessica was safe territory. After the third "it's just Jessica" in 1 week, my gut stopped letting it slide. I watched her more closely. The way her thumbs moved when she texted. Quick, urgent, like arguments, not casual chat. The way her jaw would clench, then relax, like she was negotiating something in her head. One night, she was sitting at the kitchen island, typing. I walked in to grab water. She tilted the screen away without even realizing she did it. That unconscious move said more than any speech. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah," she said too quickly. "Just talking to Jessica." The old version of me would have taken that at face value. The new version heard it as a red flag. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I just watched, listened, took mental notes. The internal war started then. Two voices in my head. One said, "Don't look. Be better than that. You're not a spy, you're her husband." The other said, "She wants other men. She's hiding conversations. And you're worried about manners?" A few nights later, the decision was made itself. Lily was getting ready for bed. I heard the shower start. The water hit the tile. I was in the bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone on the nightstand. It was just lying there. Black screen. Silent. I looked at the closed bathroom door. I could hear her singing softly under the water, same as she always did. It should have been a comforting sound. It just made me feel further away. I told myself one last time, don't do it. Once you cross this line, you can't pretend things are innocent anymore. Then I remembered her face on the couch when she said, "Freedom and new experiences." I remembered the way she'd been defensive and vague with every, "It's just Jessica." I picked up the phone. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I knew her passcode. Not because I'd snooped, because married people share those things when they still think they're on the same team. The screen lit up. I opened her messages. I didn't search everywhere. I went straight to Jessica Cole. The first thing that hit me was the length of the thread. It wasn't casual. It was their own little universe. Hundreds of messages, pictures, voice notes. A parallel relationship running alongside our marriage, hidden in plain sight behind a 4-digit code. I scrolled up to the night she'd asked me for an open marriage. "Lily," I told him. "Jessica." "Eyes and?" "Lily," he shut it down. Completely. Said it's just cheating with permission. That stung. Reading my own words in her chat like I was some obstacle. Not her husband. "Jessica, ugh. They never get it." "Lily." I thought he might understand. "Jessica." My husband didn't accept it either. Remember? "Jessica." That didn't stop me. I read that line twice. Didn't stop me. I kept going. Lily, yeah, but you and husband's name are open. You said you both agreed. Jessica, at first I tried. Jessica. I brought it up, he flipped out, called it disgusting. Jessica. So I just stopped telling him things. Jessica. Same result. More fun. Less drama. There it was. The glamorous open marriage she'd sold in the break room was a lie. There was no enlightened agreement. No mutual freedom. Just plain, old-fashioned cheating, rebranded and hidden. My stomach dropped, but my mind went sharp. Lily. So he doesn't actually know? Jessica. Babe. Men don't want details. They want comfort. Jessica. He gets his wife, his house, his stability. I get my freedom. Jessica. Win-win. Win-win. I could picture Jessica saying that, tossing her hair, laughing, like she'd cracked some secret code the rest of us were too dumb to figure out. I kept reading because at that point you don't get to look away. Lily, I don't want to lie to Mark. Jessica, you're not lying. You're protecting him from his own limitations. Jessica, if he can't handle your truth, that's his problem, not yours. Protecting him, that's what she called it. Protecting men from their own morals while you sleep around behind their backs. Then I saw my name again. Lily. He thinks anyone who does open relationships just wants to cheat. Lily. He looked at me like I was already unfaithful just for asking. Jessica. That's because he's scared of losing control. Jessica. They all are. Jessica, you deserve to feel alive. You can't live your whole life as someone's good wife and never explore. There were more messages after that. Talks about opportunities, about low-risk ways to meet guys who were also open. Plans disguised as hypotheticals. Names of bars. Mentions of Friday nights. Nothing in the thread said Lily had actually done anything yet. No photos. No hotel addresses. No, last night was amazing. Not that I saw. But honestly, by that point it didn't matter. I realized something important as I scrolled. Cheating doesn't start when bodies touch. It starts where loyalty ends. Jessica's loyalty to her husband had ended long ago. Lily's loyalty to me was sitting on a cliff edge, staring down. I read one last line that sealed it. Jessica, you don't need his permission to live your life. Jessica, worst case he finds out and leaves. Jessica, then you're free anyway. That's how lightly they spoke about blowing up a marriage. Like misplacing a sweater. I locked the phone, put it back exactly where I found it, same angle, same distance from the lamp. The shower was still running. She was still singing. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I was done. Not with the marriage yet, that would come later, but with the version of reality where I could blindly trust everyone's words. From that night on, Jessica wasn't just a bad influence. She was an active threat to my life. And for the first time since I'd said, I do, I didn't fully trust my wife. On the outside, nothing changed right away. I didn't storm into the bathroom. I didn't demand explanations. I didn't mention the messages. On the inside, a switch had flipped. I knew what Jessica really was. I knew what Lily was entertaining. And I knew this. If there was a line my wife was going to cross, I was done waiting for secondhand evidence. The next move she made, I was going to see it with my own eyes. The night it stopped being theory and turned into action was a Friday. Lily came out of the bedroom dressed a little nicer than usual. Makeup sharper, perfume heavier. She tried to make it look casual. Jeans, a nice top. But I'd been with her long enough to know the difference between hanging out and trying to impress someone. She avoided my eyes as she picked up her purse. Jessica and I are trying a new restaurant downtown, she said. Girls' night. There it was. Jessica and I. The Shield. What time? I asked. Not late, she said. I don't know. 10? 11? She waited, really waited, for me to challenge it. To question. To forbid. To give her something she could call controlling. I didn't. Have fun, I said. Calm. Even. Like I believed every word coming out of her mouth. She blinked at that, almost disappointed, then forced a smile and walked out the door. What she didn't know was that my car keys were already in my pocket. I gave her a few minutes, then followed. No rush, just a man going for a drive on a Friday night. I stayed a few cars back in traffic, far enough that she wouldn't notice, close enough that I wouldn't lose her. She headed downtown, into the part of the city with warm lights, expensive menus, and too many people chasing some version of feeling alive. She parked near an upscale restaurant. I rolled past and grabbed a spot down the block, where I could see the entrance but not be seen. From my car I watched. First Jessica arrived, all teeth and confidence. Then two men I'd never seen in my life. No husbands. No girls' night. Just my wife, standing on the edge of a line I knew she was about to cross. From my car, the whole setup looked almost harmless. Lily and Jessica at a small table near the window. Two men across from them. Drinks on the table, menus open, candles doing that soft, flattering glow thing. To anyone else, it was just four adults out on a Friday night. To me, it was a crime scene in slow motion. First, Lily looked nervous. Shoulders tight, fingers picking at the edge of her napkin. Jessica did most of the talking. Leaning in, laughing too loud, touching the guy next to her like they'd known each other forever. The man across from Lily tried a few jokes, a few compliments. I watched her smile, then look down, then smile again. Then the drinks went down a little further, and the distance between them started to shrink. He leaned in, elbows on the table. She didn't lean back. She mirrored him. That's when my chest went tight. It wasn't what they were doing. It was what she wasn't doing. She wasn't drawing a line. When he finally reached across the table and took her hand, she let him. She didn't snatch it back. She didn't shake her head. She just froze for a second, and then smiled. That was enough. I opened my car door and stepped out. My legs felt heavy, but my mind was clear. I wasn't going in there to yell. I wasn't going in there to win her back. That man across from her wasn't my competition. My competition was the story in her head that said this was freedom. I walked into the restaurant. Warm light, low music, the usual Friday chatter. None of it registered. All I saw was that table. They didn't see me until I was almost on top of them. The guy dropped her hand first. Jessica's eyes went wide. Lily went pale, like all the blood just left her body at once. I took out my phone, raised it, and hit the shutter. The sound cut through the room, sharp, clean, click, four faces in one frame. My wife, her mentor in betrayal. Two strangers who thought they were just on a fun night out. I lowered the phone and looked at Lily. "Don't bother coming home," I said. Calm, flat, dead center. Her mouth fell open. "Mark, wait." I turned to Jessica. "I'll be sending this to your husband, so he can finally see what kind of open marriage he's in." Panic hit her fast. "Mark, no, you don't understand. This was her idea, I ignored her. I'd read enough of her wisdom in those messages. Lily grabbed my arm, tears already in her eyes. "Please, just let me explain. Nothing happened. We were just... You crossed the line the second you needed. Nothing happened as a defense," I said, pulling my arm free. "We're done. No yelling. No scene. Just the truth." I slipped the phone into my pocket, gave Lily one last look, the kind you give a stranger who used to be someone, and walked out. Behind me, 2 marriages were already over. They just didn't know the paperwork dates yet. People expect the aftermath to be loud. They picture screaming matches, thrown plates, cops at the door. Reality's quieter, colder. After the restaurant, things moved fast because I made them move fast. First, Jessica disappeared from Lily's work like a dropped glass. I never saw her again, but word floated back through mutual contacts. Her husband got the picture I sent. No arguments, no second chances. He hired a lawyer and tossed her open marriage script in the trash where it belonged. At home, I didn't argue. I didn't negotiate. That same night, I went back to the house long enough to grab a bag. A few changes of clothes, toiletries, important documents. Lily stood in the doorway of our bedroom, crying, talking in circles. It wasn't what it looked like. We hadn't done anything yet. "Please, we can fix this." I let her talk. Then I gave her the only sentence that mattered. "I'm not sharing my wife," I said. "And I'm not staying married to a woman who tried to become someone else's." I left and slept on a buddy's couch for a few days. After that, I found a small apartment. 1 bedroom, thin walls, unfamiliar silence. It wasn't home, but it was mine. My lawyer handled the rest. We didn't drag it out. No battles over who hurt who more. I didn't want alimony, didn't want the house, didn't want to bleed her dry to teach a lesson. I just wanted out with my name clean and my boundaries intact. We signed papers in separate rooms at the courthouse. No movie scenes. No final monologue. Just 2 people putting legal punctuation on a story that had already ended in a restaurant window. The house went up for sale. The furniture got divided. Joint accounts got closed. Family holidays turned into separate plans, separate invitations. Lily lost the home, the daily routines, the man who used to text her just to make her smile. I lost the future I thought I had. But I kept the one thing I wasn't willing to trade for any version of modern love: my self-respect. I'm telling you this from a smaller place than the one I used to live in. Back then, we had a house, shared closet, shared bed, a shared future written in our heads like it was guaranteed. Now I've got a 1-bedroom with walls thin enough to hear my neighbors argue about bills and trash days. The furniture doesn't match. The couch is used. The kitchen's basic. But everything in here is mine. Bought by me. Chosen by me. No illusions attached. For a while after the divorce, I did what most men do when the dust settles. I replayed everything. The break room conversation I never saw. The Instagram posts. The shows. The harmless questions over dinner. The night on the couch when she said, "Freedom." The restaurant. The picture. The look on her face when I told her not to come home. I kept asking myself the same stupid questions men always ask when they get betrayed. Was I not enough? Should I have been more excited? More wild? Less ordinary? Then one day, it hit me. The problem wasn't that I was loyal. The problem was that she stopped seeing loyalty as valuable. Jessica sold her a story she never lived honestly. Open marriage, freedom, bravery, truth. But under all that branding, it was just selfishness. 2 people convincing themselves they were victims of commitment instead of adults who made vows and got bored. Here's what I finally understood. Traditional marriage isn't a prison by default. It's a choice. A daily one. You wake up and you choose that person. Not because you don't see anyone else, not because no one else wants you, but because you decide, this is my person. I gave my word. Real freedom inside that kind of commitment isn't about access to more bodies. It's knowing you can trust the one you have. It's going to bed at night without wondering who they're texting. It's hearing, "I'm going out with friends," and not feeling your stomach twist. What do people call open these days? Most of the time, it's just fear dressed up. Fear of missing out. Fear of aging. Fear of being ordinary. Fear of actually standing on one choice and letting all the other doors close. Lily chased that idea of freedom. She wanted to feel like she wasn't wasting her youth, her attractiveness, her life. Jessica didn't just give her permission. She gave her a script. You deserve more. You're protecting him from his limitations. He'll be fine, but there's always a bill. Lily lost a husband who loved her and would have gone through anything with her. She lost a home that was built brick by brick, not hashtag by hashtag. She lost the version of herself who could look in the mirror and know she'd been solid, even when tempted. Me? I lost a marriage, yeah. I lost the illusion that love guarantees loyalty. I lost the comfort of thinking that would never happen to us. What I gained was harder, but better. I gained clarity on my boundary. I will never share my woman. Not emotionally, not physically, not in theory, not just online. I gained peace with being alone rather than partnered in a lie. So if you're listening to this as a man in a relationship, and the world is whispering in your wife's ear or maybe in yours about open, non-traditional, evolved love, hear this from someone who's lived the fallout. You are not controlling for wanting exclusivity. You are not old-fashioned for expecting loyalty. You are not insecure for saying, if you want everyone, you don't get me. The bravest thing I did wasn't walk into that restaurant. It was walking out and not looking back.